Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, October 16th, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. We have less than 3 weeks to go until Election Day, and early voting set to kick off in less than 10 days. Tonight, the three candidates for mayor will face off on the debate stage for the first time. It's the first televised debate of the general election. Joining me now with more is our Ayanna Harry, who is outside Rockefeller Center with tonight's top story. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. After months of campaigning, strategizing, and fundraising, yes, we are now in the final days of this 2025 race for New York City mayor, and this is debate night. As you mentioned, the very first debate of the general election. And at this moment, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Zohran Mamdani, they are all standing on the same stage, getting ready to embark in a 2-hour live, televised, highly anticipated debate. Will Andrew Cuomo be able to maintain some of his recent momentum in the polls? Will Curtis Sliwa have a breakout moment? And how might Zohran Mamdani respond to criticism? We were able to catch up with all three candidates as they walked in to debate night.
When New Yorkers hear the facts, they get it. I believe in New Yorkers, and they're going to hear the facts tonight.
It's three of us. They didn't think I'd be here, right? Guess what? It's Eric Adams who's one and done. Curtis Sliwa's going to be on that stage. The people's mayor representing all of you.
Tonight is another chance to make the case to New Yorkers that it doesn't actually have to be the case that we live in the most expensive city in the United States. We can make it affordable. Now is the only campaign that has a plan to do so.
And while the debate is just getting underway, the political activity here outside of Rockefeller Center, that actually started a few hours ago. In fact, take a look at some of the video we captured just a short time ago along West 50th Street. Dozens and dozens and dozens of supporters for all three candidates lined both sides of the streets, cheering their candidates on as they arrived. In fact, Zohran Mamdani, he arrived with a marching band. His crowd was really excited to see that. And we spoke with some of these supporters, and we wanted to know why it was so important for them to be here.
I was born in this city, and I believe in the promise of this city. Curtis Sliwa is the right man at the right time, and tonight he's going to get to the facts. He's going to expose these candidates for who they are.
This election is the most consequential election in our lifetime, and we need a leader who can rebuild New York City. And Cuomo has the experience, vision to rebuild New York City.
Absolutely. The candidate that we're supporting, 32BJ is supporting, is Zohran Mamdani. I think he can work with politicians. I think he can work with the police departments. I think he can work with the unions. I think that he can work with all of us and bring us all together.
Again, Errol, tonight's 2-hour live debate amongst the three leading mayoral contenders happening right now here at Rockefeller Center. This debate sponsored by WNBC as well as Politico. Errol?
So other than the candidates and their entourages, that's mostly a tourist area during the day, right? They must, I imagine some of the bystanders must have been a little mystified by what was going on.
Yeah, you know, Rockefeller Center is a pretty busy and popular place, so tourists were interested to see what was going on, but a lot of them were also excited to see so many people engaged in the political process, willing to stand outside on the sidewalk for hours, just waiting for a few seconds to see their candidate, to potentially shake their hand. So it really was quite the scene here in Midtown.
Okay. Did you get any sense from the brief words that the candidates said whether or not they really prepared for this? It seems like they were all campaigning nonstop right up until this debate began tonight.
Well, I will say that for the most part, the candidates took it pretty slow today, and they were down. So there wasn't a whole lot of campaign events for the three candidates earlier today. I did ask Andrew Cuomo just yesterday about his debate prep. He said he wasn't going to be doing anything special. But we heard just yesterday on Fox News, Zohran Mamdani, he seemed like he was ready for the debate, and he had those one-line zingers in that interview for Andrew Cuomo. Curtis Sliwa, he said yesterday during the Association for a Better New York breakfast that he was actually going to take the high road in this debate and let Cuomo and Mamdani go after each other. So it does appear that there has been a little bit of strategizing going on amongst the three.
Okay. Thanks very much, Ayanna. Let me bring in our Bobby Cousin now with more on the state of the race for mayor. Bobby, what are you going to be looking for on the debate stage tonight?
Well, one thing we know, Curtis Sliwa yesterday said he's going to take off the red beret during the debate. He was wearing it as he walked in, but I guess it's going to come off at some point. But I mean, Liana alluded to this. These guys have been honing their attack lines for months, right? And those of us who cover this stuff pretty closely, we've heard all of these lines before. Just in the last couple of months, we've really heard Andrew Cuomo try to paint Zohran Mamdani as this extremist, right? Whether it's decriminalizing prostitution. You know, yesterday he really made much of this idea that Mamdani supports the decarceral state and he wants to open up Rikers and flood the city with 7,000 inmates. So I think you're going to hear a lot of that tying Mamdani to these extreme views, some of these DSA policies. And Mamdani's going to hit right back. He just put out an ad today that was hitting Cuomo, and I don't know if you saw this as a spoof on the TV show Survivor, and it was about Cuomo getting voted off the island. So I think Mamdani still sees Cuomo as something of a threat, and I think they're going to go at each other. Sliwa, I think, is going to try to tie the two of them together and say these guys both support bail reform and all of these other more liberal policies, and he is the more common sense solution. Like he said, you heard Ayanna say, he said yesterday he's going to take the high road and sort of stay above the fray, and he's going to be in the middle of them while they go at each other. Okay.
It's an interesting battle that is shaping up. None of them has 50%, so really all of them have a lot of work to do tonight and between now and the election day. Let's talk about the current mayor. He made some remarks today that really kind of raised some eyebrows. He's giving some indication about what he'll be doing after January 1st.
That's right, and there has been so much speculation, especially given all the speculation about whether he might go work for the Trump administration as a foreign ambassador. That seems to have died down. Yesterday, the mayor said he had 3 job offers and that it was his dream job. And then today, he really expounded on this. He said that he looks forward to improving cities across the globe. So some indication maybe he's going to be doing some, working in some consulting capacity for other cities in foreign countries. He said that he wants to write the book that he has been promising for years, that he has a lot of attractive offers for that and for a documentary. And he says he wants to go back to school. Here's some of the mayor earlier.
I want to go back to school, number one. I would like to get my doctorate, and many people have witnessed what we've done here in this city. Many people want me to do things in other countries. Many of you know my love of travel.
So it looks like the mayor has put some thought and some work into what he's going to be doing in January after he leaves office.
Monday, October 20th, New York 1 will host a general election debate in the race for City Council District 47 in South Brooklyn. That's between Democrat Kyla Santuoso and Republican George Santopoulos. That begins around 7:25 right here on Inside City Hall. On Wednesday, New York 1 will host the final debate in the highly anticipated race for mayor. That starts right here on New York 1 at 7 p.m. live from LaGuardia Community College. And on Friday, we'll be hosting a general election debate in the race for Manhattan District Attorney. That will start around 7:25 p.m. here on Inside City Hall. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, President Trump abruptly announced that he is terminating the Gateway Tunnel project. We'll tell you what that means and whether it can be done legally. Later tonight, I'll talk about the City Council's role in building more affordable housing when I'm joined by City Councilwoman Natasha Williams. And finally, we will cross the Hudson River and turn to another competitive contest, the race to become the next governor of New Jersey. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You done with the sports section?
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. President Trump says he plans to get rid of programs he doesn't like, calling one of them, the Gateway Tunnel Project, terminated. That's the multi-billion-dollar project to build a second tunnel for trains under the Hudson River. New York One Transit reporter Samantha Liebman has that story.
Work continued on the Gateway Tunnel Project Thursday, despite President Donald Trump declaring a day earlier that he's ending it.
The project in Manhattan, the project in New York, it's billions and billions of dollars that Schumer has worked 20 years to get. It's terminated.
Called one of the most important infrastructure projects for the sheer fact that the 800,000 people a day who commute via the current tunnel help the region generate 20% of the nation's economic output. And it depends heavily on federal funding, nearly $12 billion of the $16 billion for the project. Governor Kathy Hochul reacted.
New York City is the economic engine for not just New York, but the entire country. So something like the Gateway Tunnel, if it's compromised, it's over 100 years old, and the existing tunnels are damaged by Superstorm Sandy. If that collapses, the northeastern economy will come to its knees.
The current 115-year-old tunnel must be repaired due to damage from Superstorm Sandy. Without a second tunnel, the Regional Plan Association estimates closing one tube at a time would result in the loss of $100 million in economic output a day. Senator Chuck Schumer posting this on X. It's petty revenge politics that would screw hundreds of thousands of New York and New Jersey commuters, choke off our economy, and kill good-paying jobs. Some estimates have the amount of jobs that would be lost at more than 20,000. Hochul implied she'll take the feds to court.
We're prepared for anything. We're used to lawyering up, but it's a damn shame that our efforts have to be spent on playing defense instead of offense to protect our people.
On Wednesday, a judge ordered critical transit security funding restored that the administration had redirected. The president's announcement follows the freezing of $18 billion for Gateway and the extension of the 2nd Avenue subway to 125th Street because the administration issued a new rule that prohibits awarding contracts based on sex and race. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy last week said the workers who would review the projects for compliance are furloughed, but he also reiterated support for both projects.
The president in his budget fully funded these projects. We're not trying to shut down these projects. To the contrary, we're trying to make sure these projects move forward and move forward fast. They're important.
The tunnel is expected to be completed in 2035, and it will help alleviate delays and cancellations due to disabled trains. Now, we reached out to the Department of Transportation and have not heard back, and the Gateway program declined to comment. In Hudson Yards, Samantha Liebman, New York One.
It is time for a break now, and when we come back, we'll take a closer look at the legality of President Trump's airstrikes against alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean. Stay with us. This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual.
When I come home late,
and a few generations.
you're always there.
And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over. Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together. It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
Stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The Trump administration has conducted at least 5 military strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean, killing more than 24 people. The military campaign has touched off a furious debate about its legality. President Trump argues that he is doing what is necessary to keep drugs out of the U.S., but there are lawmakers and scholars who disagree. As a warning, the following story includes footage of fatal military attacks. Spectrum News national political reporter Taylor Popolars joins me now from the White House with more details.
Errol, President Donald Trump has been ramping up military pressure on Venezuela in recent weeks, and he's been publicly indicating he does not think he needs congressional approval to do so. And what we've seen play out over the last 6 weeks has been really striking. Since early September, President Donald Trump has posted 5 videos marked unclassified that show missiles fired by the U.S. military destroying boats in the Caribbean that the president says contain drugs and drug smugglers. At least 27 people on the boats have been killed. At least 4 of the boats came from Venezuela.
We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela, and a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea.
That was the president on Wednesday, justifying the killings and confirming that he has authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations in Venezuela. He also said that U.S. military strikes on the South American country could be next.
We are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
There are questions over whether these attacks are legal. The administration justifies them by classifying the alleged traffickers as unlawful combatants who can be met with military force. Critics say less lethal measures should be used to confirm that drugs are even on the boats, and that the attacks themselves need congressional authorization, which has not been requested. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are divided.
There's process, there's regulation, there's a law, there's Congress. And so I think there's a serious question of the legality. But he doesn't seem to matter to him. And the rogue Supreme Court has said he can do whatever he wants.
The President of the United States is doing exactly what he should be doing. He's the commander-in-chief. When he sees an invasion coming against the United States, he takes action. He's a leader. He should take that action. I support him 100%.
Georgetown University professor Anthony Aaron tells Spectrum News he believes attacks on the boats clearly violate international law.
Under international law, even if the boats were engaging in drug trafficking, you couldn't arrest them on the high seas. We don't have the authority to do that. Domestic law, it's debatable, but I think the more we see of it, the more I feel like congressional authorization would be advisable.
Professor Aaron says if the president escalates this conflict by ordering land strikes on Venezuela, or if he tries to remove President Nicolas Maduro, that would intensify demands that President Trump both briefs Congress and obtains their authorization, since lawmakers do control how the military is funded. Errol?
So now, Taylor, can you explain a little bit more why some lawmakers think that what the president is doing is illegal?
Yeah, Democrats in Congress especially argue that there are other measures the U.S. could be taking to both surveil these boats and to actually, essentially in the waters, pull them over to inspect them, to see if there are actually drugs on board, to see if the people on board are drug smugglers. And they argue the Coast Guard should be doing that first before a military strike is conducted. President Trump addressed that in the Oval Office yesterday, and he said that he feels what the Coast Guard has been doing for decades has not been effective, and he feels that these strikes are both warranted and non-controversial. He said, despite presenting evidence, that he knows for sure that there were drugs on board and that the people on board were drug smugglers. So right now, it's the president's word against kind of a lack of evidence, and that's what has lawmakers really suspect about what's moving forward. Errol?
All right. Thanks very much, Taylor. It is time for a break. When we come back, I'll be joined in studio by City Councilwoman Natasha Williams of Queens. We're going to talk about the massive rezoning plan for Jamaica, as well as the housing ballot measures that relate to zoning and housing. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Perkins.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Besides the race for mayor and some other local contests, you will see a number of questions on the back of your Election Day ballot. That includes 3 ballot measures that would impact housing development and the land use review process in New York. If passed, the measures would take away some power over development from the City Council, which votes on every rezoning plan. Just this month, 2 City Council committees approved a massive rezoning proposal for Jamaica Queens. The Jamaica Neighborhood Plan will seek to build nearly 12,000 new homes in the neighborhood over the next 15 years, including 4,000 affordable units. Joining me now to talk about the project itself, as well as those ballot questions, we've got City Councilwoman Natasha Williams. She represents parts of Jamaica and other neighborhoods in Southeast Queens, including all or part of Hollis, St. Albans, and Cambria Heights. She also chairs the Committee on Civil and Human Rights. Welcome to the program. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
I want to ask you about this Jamaica rezoning, because it's actually big and exciting, and apparently the biggest rezoning in 20 years in New York. What do you find most interesting? What should people know about this?
So what is the most interesting thing to note is that we spent 2 years talking to the community. We created a community advisory council. We held larger meetings for everybody in the community to participate in. We even held a youth symposium to make sure that we were really attracting all of the voices in the community. So much of this plan is shaped by the voices, opinions, and concerns of people who live right here in Jamaica.
As I mentioned, the largest neighborhood rezoning in New York City in over 20 years.
Yes.
It'll build out over a 15-year period. That's not unusual. But you, like other council members, are term limited. So you're putting something in motion that'll last 15 years. What happens if your successor? What happens if you're not there to oversee it, and your successor either wants to change it, reverse it, or take it in a different direction?
Absolutely. So for us, this plan was about figuring out how to develop the community as a place for people to work, live, and play, as I've said a ton of times. What's most exciting is that I did this in my first term, and so I actually have the next 4 years to hammer in the administration to make sure that they are actually working diligently to execute on all of the promises and investments of over nearly $700 million when you include what we negotiated last year for sewer infrastructure through City of Yes. And the most important thing that I was able to do is to push for a task force. So this would outlive me. It would outlive a mayor because it's 15 years. And so the community, who is a stable entity, would be able to hold the administration accountable and the new council member to delivering all the things that have been promised through the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan.
Okay. Now, my understanding is the Land Use Committee and Zoning Subcommittees approved the plan on October 9th. So the last stop is a vote by the full council and a signature by the mayor?
Yes. So it went back to the Department of City Planning because we made some modifications on the zoning to be cognizant and to hear the concerns of community members. Southeast Queens is a very low density area, single family households, and people are concerned about increased density in their communities, and we wanted to be sensitive to that. So as you sort of move from the downtown Jamaica area, the ability to go down in terms of density happens as you move closer into the community.
Okay, so that's a perfect bridge into. I wanted to talk to you about these ballot questions. The community boards 8 and 12 cover the development area here, and I saw Community Board 12 covers most of the area, voted 35-1 against the proposal.
Yes.
Community Board 8 voted 18-17 against. Isn't that the whole problem, that you go out of your way to get community input, but the process gets to be so slow that it takes years and years and years, and that has been contributing to the housing crisis, right?
I think there are many things that contribute to the housing process. Yes, not all communities are the same, not all council members are the same, not all are willing to push and play a role in addressing the most pressing issue in New York City, which is housing. But I do believe there are so many other things that contribute to long delays. The city has so many different types of reviews, environmental review, if you're working with HPD, getting financing, all of that stuff can take many years before it actually even comes to the community or the council for a vote. So I'm not one to just do a brush of a wand and say we're going to do this and this is going to solve housing production. No, I think if we are serious about developing housing, we need to have a comprehensive plan to do that. And that isn't just, you know, by way of these ballot proposals. That isn't just saying we're going to strip away, we're not going to allow for communities and council members to negotiate on these projects because we make them better. It's about figuring out all these other places of entry that stall the process when people are seeking to develop housing in New York City.
I wanted to ask you, I guess, in general about, is there a sense of urgency in the council? As you mentioned, and we've done stories on this, there are some of your council colleagues who have almost nothing built in their districts. And that, in some cases, it's gone back decades or even generations of just nothing getting built. People try and put in a couple hundred units and they get voted out of office. It's really been a process that's been frustrating, I guess, citywide as we deal with this housing emergency.
It is frustrating. And I feel like this council sometimes is like carrying the sins of the past. This particular council has been very pro-housing. Out of all the projects that have come to the council, we've approved over 93% of those projects that will deliver over 130,000 units of housing. And so, yeah, I think it has been an issue, but I also think stripping away and not allowing for community members and elected officials who are represented to support the needs of the community, taking our voices away, isn't necessarily going to expedite housing production.
You mentioned 93% get approved, but we never hear about the ones that don't get approved, right? The developers who say, you know, these are just numbers from the RAM Corporation. Project approvals take 30 days in Houston, 15 months in San Francisco, 2.5 years in New York City. There are developers who I'm sure you know about. They get a sense of where the community board is and where the local member is, and they say, we can't afford to get site control of land and then bleed for 2.5 years just trying to get the proposal even looked at.
If you look at the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan as an example, is the community happy? Absolutely not. You just noted that CB12 voted it down. But did I take into consideration what their concerns were? Yes. And I think that give and take, that healthy tension between community members and building housing is just that healthy. To totally take that process away is the piece that is problematic for us in the council, and particularly me, who I've spent 2 years working with community members. To not have that, I think is detrimental. Now, this is a neighborhood plan. This is over 200 plus blocks. But if we're talking about a particular piece of property, I think that's a different conversation. In my other hat and other role, when I've spoken to developers about what is it that takes you so long to build in New York City, the council and the community is one hurdle, but there are so many other hurdles. These other cities, very quickly, they don't have the complex, major, all these type of agencies requesting permits and approvals. They don't have any of that. So yeah, maybe the community isn't as engaged in the land use process, but they also don't have as many barriers to actually put a shovel in the ground.
Would it make sense if the next mayor and council would create maybe a comprehensive way to cut through a lot of this so that, you know, let's take yours as maybe the model district, if we could maybe shrink the time a little bit,
of course,
of what other districts should be doing?
Absolutely. I do think there should be a place for people to chime in. I do think there should be some standards. People should be held to how community members feel about these projects. We know our communities best, but these things shouldn't completely halt the process of housing production. And I do feel like there's a more nuanced way to do that. I feel like the ballot proposals are not nuanced. They are just, you know, one way to potentially address the issue, but it really doesn't speak to so many other things that actually impact the ability to build housing in New York City.
Okay. Thank you for all of that. Again, congratulations on getting your project done of lots of housing for people who really need it. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you a preview of this week's episode of my podcast, You Decide. I sat down with Kelly Mena of New York One and Dana Rubenstein from the New York Times, and we talked about Mayor Adams' legacy. Stay with us.
The next downtown Local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching. Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on. From severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. It is no secret that Eric Adams, like many New York City mayors, has had a challenging relationship with the press. And even though he is no longer in the race for mayor, Adams continues to spar with the City Hall press corps. I spoke to two people who have spent the last few years covering the mayor, R. Kelly Mena and New York Times Metro reporter Dana Rubenstein. We sat down to talk about how and why Adams' relationship with the press began to deteriorate, how they approached covering him, and why a now dismissed federal corruption indictment may have been too much for him to recover from. We also talked a little bit about what the mayor's legacy will be. Here's part of that conversation.
Let's talk a little bit, though. Let's you know, set the record straight, as far as we can tell in this first draft of history, about what the administration did well and what it did not so well. I will start by talking about sanitation, because I'm the guy who takes out the garbage in my house. It has been an unabashed triumph that we have moved from leaving garbage on the sidewalk like, you know, 18th century peasants or whatever, to actually putting it in containers by law, setting it out on the sidewalk, and then somebody comes by and takes it away. And if there's a holiday, they actually just come the next day instead of like, sorry, you missed it, you know, Columbus Day is a Monday, put out your recyclables next week. No, they come the following day. So I don't know who's responsible for it, but it happened on his watch, so I give him credit for it.
Well, and Errol, you compost as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can. I mean, I've always wanted to, but they started by putting the little mailboxes around the city, and then they made it mandatory curbside composting and gave us the bins.
Well, I will say it was the city council that mandated the composting, to be clear.
Okay.
But yeah, I am also a composter. What I want to see, I mean, there's no place to recycle your electronics, howewer.
True.
Like, that is a big hole.
The next frontier, yes.
Yeah, same with textiles. But, you know, people credit him also with the City of Yes, you know, with grappling, you know, and this is something that also the council, you know, was a big factor in. But, you know, they credit him with setting the stage for increasing density in a significant way in New York City in the coming years. Which may or may not help deal with the affordability crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to his credit, too, this was a personal issue for him. The dyslexia screenings are very big, especially for children. We all have kids. It's important to catch things early on. The earlier you catch it, the earlier you address it. And, you know, dyslexia can lead to so many other issues. I know people think about it as an education, but behavioral issues, and then so many going on till later in life. So I think that was important. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, the housing component, because affordability here in the city is such a big deal. And it's interesting because housing, initially the way he sold City of Yes, many people weren't on board, but by the end, both his side of City Hall and the City Council were able to come to an agreement on it. And I think that's going to lead to a framework of lots of homes. He's put out this number of 400,000, but we'll see if that's how much it creates.
The number itself is a little shaky, but the rezoning is real. And I remember talking about it with his planning commissioner, Daniel Garodnick, who I think was their point person on it. And he said, we could have scaled it back and gotten an easier vote, but they were especially proud that they took it to a somewhat close vote in the council, meaning they pushed it further than they could have gotten away with to try and get more density and get a better deal and get a sort of a better roadmap to a denser city. And they absolutely deserve credit for that. I mean, we don't know how many units it's going to result in. He throws out these numbers, and it's kind of like, well, that's projected. I mean, that's not, you know.
He compares actual built numbers of prior administrations to projected numbers emanating from his actions.
Yes, exactly.
Which is a tricky way.
Pronounces himself as having done more affordable housing than the prior administrations.
Yeah,
any mayor
ignoring
in history,
LaGuardia.
Right. Somehow, but that's fine. He's entitled to interpret his administration any way he wants. On the education theme, switching to phonics, which the Chancellor David Banks did, was I mean, it was overdue for one thing, but it was quite an achievement and an important one that will, I think, benefit kids going forward. Your kids will learn phonetically, which is what we should have been doing all along.
Definitely. I think something, it's interesting, we talked about race. One thing he did do is place a lot of these communities who felt like they were being overseen or not recognized enough into a spotlight. And that much I will say, because I've gone to so many of his events. They're not big highlight events, but there are these communities you go to and, you know, they're like, this is the first time I'm seeing the mayor. Their children are learning better. They're getting, you know, just better services in their communities. And they feel... One thing about New York City is when you feel seen, you feel like that pours into your community. That's important. And I think that's one thing that the mayor did, even with the way he set up his administration, bringing in people from communities, people of color, especially women in there, really helped him. And I think that's going to be something that his administration, many people are going to say he did a good job of doing. Because many of the people that he brought in, you know, putting to the side the cronyism that he had, many of them were long-time civil servants that really had a lot of experience in the areas that they've been serving in. So they brought those ideas to the table.
There was a big question, though, about how empowered they were, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in a showdown between the cronies and the professionals,
Yes.
The cronies often won the day and, in fact, reversed some of the decisions that had been made. I'm thinking about, you know, some of the traffic patterns.
McGinnis Boulevard,
Yeah, McGinnis
for example.
Boulevard. Yeah.
Well, and Randy Mastro has come in, speaking of, like, composting, you know, we're talking about housing, we're talking about... Elizabeth Garden, reversed that and put it on a different lot after they went all the way to court for that one. The composting, there was no more fines there. There's now the horse carriages. You know, I think that's going to be something else that many people are going to look at, this idea that can you actually bring your friends to City Hall and can it actually work? And I think the answer is no.
Well, under Adams, it didn't work, and then, you know, his administration fell apart. I mean, in part for that reason, right? I mean, there was at least one poll. It was one of the quality polls. It was either Quinnipiac or Siena, one of the university polls, where he ranked very high. This is shortly before he dropped out of the race, as, you know, corrupt/untrustworthy. And I was like, wow, that's very unusual for a sitting mayor. Not because people don't think that there are crooks at City Hall, because people always think that, but because it doesn't usually emerge as an issue. It doesn't usually rise to the level where people are like, you know, there's wrongdoing and it's a serious problem and I can't trust the mayor.
Yeah, the public really seemed to absorb both the indictment and the courtship of the president to have the indictment abandoned. It really seemed to penetrate.
Yes. And in a surprising way to me, you know, because there's so many basic issues that, like, the public either doesn't notice or care about. And everybody locked in on what was a fairly sophisticated.
Agree. It was not uncomplicated.
Yeah. It was sort of complicated. You know, like the Main Justice, like, browbeat the Southern District, and, you know, half the time you can't even get people to even understand what the federal prosecutor is as opposed to the local district attorney. Everybody was clear that there was something wrong there, and that didn't work out for him. The last of the things that I think he'll be remembered for, that I will remember him for, is getting healthier food into the schools.
Oh, yeah. I mean, veganism is, well, it's trendy now, but it's so healthy. I think that, and, you know, speaking of healthier food, also this idea of meditation, you know, in schools, like, that is such an interesting idea because it does help with health. But I think it's important to, you know, talk about, it's fascinating to me because I feel like he didn't do enough when it came to his veganism.
You can catch the full podcast episode wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on New York One's YouTube channel. It will also air on New York One on Saturday night at 9 p.m. with this week's Off Topic on Politics episode right after. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we will head across the Hudson River and tell you all about the race for governor that is heating up in New Jersey. I'll be joined by 2 local reporters over there to break it all down. Stay with us. Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are turning our attention now to the race for governor of New Jersey. The current governor, Phil Murphy, has been in office since 2018, but he is leaving because of term limits. That makes for a wide open race, and Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill is the Democrat who is seeking to succeed Murphy. She is facing a tough challenge from the Republican Jack Ciattarelli. The latest poll by Quinnipiac University shows that Sherrill is in the lead with 50% of likely New Jersey voters saying they will vote for her, while Ciattarelli is currently polling at 44%, a little behind, but certainly in striking distance. The contest is one of only 2 governor's races in the country this year, and it could serve as a bellwether, an indicator of where things are heading as we go into next year's midterm elections. Joining me now to talk more about the race is a special panel. Sophie Nieto-Munoz is a reporter for the New Jersey Monitor. Brett Johnson has spent the last 12 years covering politics for NJ.com. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for joining us. And I want to start with you, Sophie. What are the leading issues that voters care about that are driving this race?
Yeah, so affordability is by far top of mind for New Jersey voters. I mean, this is one of the most expensive states to live in. You constantly see property taxes take the lead in terms of what people are voting on. But I do also think, like you said, this is going to be a referendum on Donald Trump in both ways. So I believe that we're going to, that's a big issue. It's a top issue here in New Jersey, the way that our candidates would respond to Donald Trump if they were governor.
And Brent, similar question. New Jersey and Virginia are the only high-profile races this year, as I pointed out. That leads analysts to treat them as a bellwether of how the midterms are going to turn out next year. Are these candidates good representatives of where national Democrats and Republicans are heading?
New Jersey has kind of become, it's always been a blue-leaning state, but it's been kind of purple in recent years. So it stand to reason that both candidates from the state would be kind of in the middle, which is kind of what you've seen in the past from both of them, although Ciattarelli this time, it's a bit different because Trump inserted himself into the race and actively endorsed Ciattarelli. So Ciattarelli's running with that in his corner if you're a Republican and against him if you're a Democrat. And so that's kind of coloring the race because Trump is directly involved, and Sherrill is kind of saying, I'm the moderate choice and that it's dangerous to elect my opponent.
So, Sophie, as Mikey Sherrill tries to position herself as a way for voters to push back against Donald Trump, is that seen as a viable strategy, or is it going to be local issues that dominate here?
I think that's to be seen. I mean, affordability, like I said, is always going to take the cake here for New Jersey voters. Property taxes, utility cost, groceries. So I think that is, I guess, what people are going to be thinking of when they go to the polls.
And Brent Ciattarelli making his third run now for governor. How did he do in his previous efforts? And does he appear to have learned from those efforts?
Yeah, well, the first time he ran was in the election that Phil Murphy won. He finished second in the Republican primary. He was known as a moderate Republican state lawmaker at that time. He lost to Kim Guadagno, who's the lieutenant governor. The next time he was the nominee against Phil Murphy, running as Murphy ran for re-election, and he won. He finished 3 points behind Murphy, which was a lot better than many people expected. At the time, he was kind of sitting on the fence on Donald Trump and he didn't seek his endorsement and didn't really talk too much about it and kind of tiptoed around it. This time, he's running for a third time. He's the nominee for the second straight election, and this time he has Trump's endorsement.
And so, Brent, New Jersey is one of these states where non-affiliated voters outnumber Democrats and outnumber Republicans. How are these independents breaking, as far as you can tell?
Well, the polls show that he is leading with independents, the most polls show, but the question is whether he will be able to get enough independents and undecideds to come his way to close the gap, because New Jersey does have more registered Democrats than Republicans. And the question is, does this strategy of aligning with Trump this time, is that going to pay off? Is that going to be the difference? Or is that going to be the albatross that ultimately brings him down?
Interesting. So now, Sophie, what's going on with this accusation about a publication that Mr. Ciattarelli used to own, financed in part by pharmaceutical companies, that Mikey Sherrill says put out misinformation about opioid deaths?
Yeah, so we saw this come up for the first time in this cycle during the debate. This is actually one of Brent's colleagues wrote this piece back in 2021, I believe, about Ciattarelli's medical publishing company, and now Sherrill is connecting it to the opioid crisis. That kind of, we saw a new side of Mikey Sherrill on the debate stage by her bringing this out. And now Ciattarelli has responded by saying that he is going to file a lawsuit. Granted, that has not been done at this time. He is currently, I think, figuring out whether it's going to affect his campaign funds if he files that suit. So I think the impact of that is to be seen, but Mikey Sherrill has been using it in advertisements. We've seen a new website come out this week connecting Jack to the opioid crisis. So this is really something that she is, it's a sticking point for her.
It seems a little far-fetched, I got to be honest, from this side of the river. I mean, it seems that years ago he owned this company. It put out certain kinds of information. We haven't been able to find the actual videos or articles that are in question, right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether those articles have come out. I do think that Brent might know a little bit more about this with his colleagues having covered this.
Yeah, tell us, Brent, what do we know about this?
Yeah, my colleague Ted Sherman wrote about this in the past, and he looked at some of the articles were said to have, the critics say they were propaganda for the drug industry. Others say they were funding came from the drug industry to create educational materials about opioids, and the allegation is that they underplayed the effects of opioids for pain management. He is standing by it. He's saying that these accusations that he killed people is definitely a lie and that he's proud of his work. She is saying that the question was whether she went a bit too far during the debate. One of the criticisms of Sherrill is that she hasn't been specific and hasn't been aggressive enough, and she definitely showed that during the debate by doing this. But she didn't just say that he profited off the the opioid industry. She said he actually killed kids, and it might be seen as an exaggeration at that point. But she said that the point is that she believes he benefited from the opioid crisis by his company printing these materials, and she's doubling down. She's not backing off, and he's saying he's going to file a lawsuit. We're waiting to see if that will happen.
Okay. Brent, Donald Trump, the president, has said that he has, quote, terminated the Gateway Tunnel project that would connect New York and New Jersey. Source of great concern, I think, on both sides of the river. It's not clear whether that's legal, whether that's going to happen, but what have the reactions been from the candidates?
Well, that was a good example of Donald Trump could do something and throw, a haymaker right into the election. And so it's also kind of unclear whether he was just, making a threat or being facetious. Sometimes you don't know with Trump. But, this is definitely an issue that people pay attention to in New Jersey. A lot of people in New Jersey cross the river to go to work, and it's a big deal. And so during the shutdown, to have this kind of threat happen, it caught everyone's attention. And Cheryl and Chitterelli both immediately responded to it. Cheryl said that I'm going to keep fighting for this, and it shows I'm going to fight for New Jersey when Jack is aligned with Trump and won't. But Jack said that this shows you need a governor that knows how to work with the administration, who knows how to work with Trump, and that he's going to keep fighting because it's an important program as well, an important project. And now it's all wait and see mode to see what actually happens with Gateway.
I guess on a related note, congestion pricing is something that Phil Murphy fought hard against, including legally, politically, in every way that he could figure out how to interfere with it before it got started. Now that it's in place, what are these candidates saying about congestion pricing here in New York?
Yes, Cheryl has fought against congestion pricing, as a lot of her fellow congressional delegation, the Democratic members of the congressional delegation in New Jersey. Chitterelli has actually floated the idea of doing reverse congestion pricing, that if you're going to do this to New Jersey, maybe we'll give you a toll to come into our state. I don't know how many New Yorkers compared to those who go from New Jersey to New York are there coming the other way, but that's his stance. But congestion pricing, definitely top of mind for a lot of commuters in New Jersey. The question is whether people who don't commute pay attention to it. But yeah, it's another one of the many issues in this very fascinating race.
Okay. Sophie Nieto-Munoz, Brent Johnson, thank you both for joining us. That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
That's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
We've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Floor Spire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street